I'd like to start tonight by telling you about our son, Aaron. Aaron, the most important thing that I'll ever tell you about him is that he gave his life to Christ at a young age. And because of that, there's no doubt about it. When it's all said and done. And I'll tell you what, because of that, on August 6, 2011, when his father and I found out that horrible Saturday morning that he'd been killed at 6:09 p.m. the evening before on Friday evening, we knew exactly where Aaron Vaughn was, and we also knew that one day we would be with him again. We knew that before that helicopter hit the ground, God himself had swept him up in his arms and taken him home. And I thank God for that. I don't know how anybody buries a child outside of that knowledge. What I like to tell you also about Aaron is this. Aaron was a kid who from the time he was 8 knew exactly what he'd been created to do. I never knew anybody like Aaron. And what I mean by that is and I think it's because of that faith he had in Christ as a child, he was a kid who always knew he'd been created to be a Navy SEAL. I didn't even know what a Navy SEAL was when he first started talking to me about it, as a child, but his dad did, and they talked about it, and Aaron had decided that's what he'd been made to do, and so he had this goal in front of him his entire life. And what's important about that is it kept him driven, it kept him focused. He stayed out of trouble because he had an aspiration, something he wanted to attain. And so he was like the easiest kid in the universe to raise. People used to say, oh, those teenagers. And I was like, man, not this one. Man, this kid has been a joy to raise, just so easy. But by the time, and Aaron has some setbacks, by the time he was a senior in high school, he obliterated the anterior cruciate ligament in his left knee in football practice the day before the season opener of his senior year. Aaron graduated at 17 years, and when he got that injury, it was really devastating, not because football was over, that was hard. But what was really devastating is he thought it might interfere with his dream of becoming a Navy SEAL. That was all he ever thought about. And so he had that ligament replaced, had surgery, everything was successful. He rehabbed phenomenally, was right back on the path to fulfilling that dream as soon as he graduated. But then, just before school let out that year, he was playing a pickup game of basketball with some friends, and he blew that knee out again. And this time, it was a real setback because he knew it was going to be a long rehab, a long time. It was going to hold him back from going right into that dream as soon as he graduated. But unfortunately, when the surgeon went in to do that replacement this time of that anterior cruciate ligament, he came back out about 2 hours into the surgery and he looked at Billy and I and he said, Mr. and Mrs. Vaughn, I'm sorry to tell you there was nothing I could do to repair Aaron's knee. It's irreparable. There's too much damage in that joint. There was nothing left to attach a new ligament to. And these are the words he said to us, and I'll never forget them as long as I live. He said, Aaron will spend the rest of his life somewhat handicapped, and he will never be able to do anything physical again. Yeah. And so, we all believed that. We all thought that was his fate. Aaron believed that. When he woke up from that anesthesia, the boy was absolutely crushed. And he started, just spending time, on his face before God saying, I don't understand. I don't understand why this has happened. And he started trying to redirect his life and redirect his thoughts to something positive. He went to college, got a degree, had an amazing job at Jupiter Island Club Golf Course, which is one of the premier golf courses in the country, had a future in front of him, a career path in front of him that was absolutely brilliant. And everything was moving just like it was supposed to move on this new track in life until that day came that changed everything for everyone across this nation and actually across the globe, and that of course was September 11th, 2001. Something shifted in Aaron's countenance when those towers fell and when he started hearing those stories come out of that rubble and those ashes. And we didn't know what was going on. Billy and I didn't. But a few months later, Aaron came home on his 21st birthday. He sat down at the dinner table across from Billy and I, and just as matter-of-factly as he told us he stopped and got milk, he said, Mom and Dad, I stopped at the Navy recruiter's office on the way home from work and I joined the SEAL Challenge program. And I was literally stunned. I mean, my mind started reeling instantly, like, how do I stop this? I need to go write a note or something because this is not going to happen. Because remember, all this time that he had wanted to become a Navy SEAL, we weren't at war. This was just a dream of doing a really cool job, in my mind. That's what I thought. That's not what Aaron was thinking, but that's what I thought, Getting to play with all the toys that man could possibly create and doing all this really crazy fun stuff. But now we were at war and people were dying. And so that realization just started pouring through my head, and I finally, I thought I was clever, and I said, well, son, does the Navy know about your knee? You're thinking. He goes, well, of course not, or they'd have never let me in the program. We started the whole thing that way, and I just have to move straight to the end of the story because you all know he did, in fact, become a Navy SEAL, made it all the way to SEAL Team 6, but Aaron went into Buzz Class 248, Basic Underwater Demolition SEAL Training. He started with 157 men in his class and 7 finished, and Aaron Vaughn was one of them. There's a wall in Coronado Island off the coast of San Diego at the Buzz Complex, and across the top of that wall it reads, "First time, every time." It holds the names of the few men in history who have completed every single evolution required of them to become a Navy SEAL the first time they tried it. Guess whose name is on that wall? Yeah, Aaron Vaughn. And so, I don't say that to brag on Aaron, because Aaron was the most humble human being you would ever have met in your life. You would not believe the humility that coursed through this boy's veins. He was so honored that he got to serve his country. That's all he cared about. That he got to do in his time what others had done in their time to protect and defend the freedoms that he now was going to have the privilege of protecting and defending. And I'll tell you something, even making it all the way to SEAL Team 6, I promise you, he never once beat his chest and said, "Look what I did." He instead raised his hand in worship to God and said, "I can't believe you've let me do this." That's how he fought his life. Not long after Aaron's death, our family, and it's really important for me to share this at our Florida stops, because our family started an organization called Operation 300, and we have those camps. There's one going on as I speak. And well, I'll tell you a little bit about it, but let me just tell you, one of the mentors has built a catapult, and they're out there chucking melons across the fields right now. I've been getting videos all afternoon. It's awesome. But Operation 300, what we do is we host kids who've lost their fathers in service to this country. We bring them in, and we have a weekend of extreme adventure. And I'll tell you, some places I go, it's probably not politically correct, but these kids, they learn to shoot guns. They have little 22s that look like the ARs their daddies fought with, you know, and they think they're so bad, and they pull these big guns up to shoot at the target, and it's like, ding, ding, ding. So funny, but anyway, they love it. They're actually, the older ones are going to be trained to scuba dive this weekend. We've got them snorkeling, they ride horses, they do just all sorts of extreme things that they might have gotten to do if their dad was still here. And so it's an incredible thing that's happening over there in Florida. But when we were closing out a camp several months ago, my husband was talking to the little boys and girls and their mothers. You know, the widows were circled around behind about 31 kids, ranging in age from about 7 all the way up to 18. And Billy just said the most profound thing I'd ever heard, and I'll never forget it. He looked at those kids sitting in front of him and he said, "I want you to know something. Your daddies didn't die for a government." And then he said, "Your fathers, they didn't give their lives to seize anybody's land. Your daddies died for a way of life. The American way of life." As people started acknowledging what that really meant. And I want to take this one step further. The American way of life, we are the most exceptional nation on this planet. And I am so sick of living amidst a country who wants to tell us that we are not the most exceptional nation on this planet. A representative republic is the noblest form of government ever devised by man and must be protected and defended. And men and women have known that throughout the ages of this great nation. And I'll tell you something, I've been asked the question several times in the 4 years, which this week will mark the 4th year that Aaron's been gone from this world. August 6th will be 4 years. I've been asked this question many times, and I've had to contemplate it deeply, and here's the question: was America worth it? It took me a while. It took me a while to be able to answer that question because of the pain, the gut-wrenching pain of burying my only son. But I will tell you right now, my answer is absolutely, unequivocally, yes, right now telling us, constantly pouring into us in the media, that we are not good people anymore, that we are not the same kind of people that built this nation, that founded this nation. And while it may be true that we are infiltrated with a lot of people who do not love this country, I travel across this country and I got to tell you, there are a lot of us, and we outnumber the ones who don't want what's best for this country. If you've lost that basic faith that we are still the greatest nation on earth, or that we're the most blessed people, let me tell you something. Aaron Vaughn never took for granted a day of his life that he'd been blessed enough to have been born in the United States of America where men were free. And if we ever forget what that looks like, I encourage you to do this. I encourage you to get in your car tomorrow and drive by a playground full of laughing children with careless mothers sitting over on their cell phones tweeting something, or text messaging their friends. We used to talk, but we don't do that anymore. Now we have our faces buried in cell phones. But if that doesn't do it for you, I'll tell you what, buy a ticket to a local Friday night high school football game. And you will remember what America looks like and what it looks like to be a free people, the free nation. And after Aaron's death, well, let me just tell you one more story. I don't want to go too long here, but let me just tell you one more story. When we talk about the people of this nation being fundamentally good people, that we are the ones that outnumber the others, I have two stories. I'm going to try to make them very brief. But here's what happened to me. On August 6, 2011, that Saturday morning, my husband was 3,500 miles away from home when we found out our son was gone. And so he traveled through the night, took a red-eye flight, got home on Sunday morning, and the first thing that we did was go to church as a family and worship God and thank Him for everything He'd given us, everything He'd done, and pray and beg Him to walk us through what was coming next. And then later that afternoon, we got on a plane to head to Washington, D.C. to be with Aaron's wife, now widow, and his two little kids, Reagan, if that tells you anything about their politics, who was almost 2, and Chamberlain, who was 9 weeks old. And we headed to Washington, D.C., and for the first time as we were sitting on that plane, I had a window seat, and for the first time as we were sitting on that plane, my mind began to think. Because the first day was just chaos. My yard full of cars, people coming and going, just trying to, process, but not really having any ability to process. And now I'm sitting on that plane and it was quiet. And I just sat there and started trying to process what was happening in my world. And I was looking out that window, and I just noticed I'm looking at this land, this place we call America, and I'm just contemplating the fact that my son just died to protect this nation that I'm flying over and looking at. And I started crying so hard that my shoulders began to shake, and I just kind of became completely overwhelmed. And everybody started noticing me because I couldn't stop. I just couldn't. And as I was looking out that window, the stewardess went back to my son-in-law, who was sitting a couple rows back behind us, and said, "Is she okay?" Because she had seen us come on the plane together. And he explained to her who I was and what was happening. And it was as if that entire flight just came to life on our behalf. I don't even know how to express to you what happened, but I'll tell you something. People started whispering prayers over us. A stewardess walked up with this precious little folded note and put it in my hand with tears just running down her face. When we landed, the pilot asked everybody to remain seated while our family exited the plane. And people, as we walked by, they began touching my leg and grabbing my hand and telling me they were praying for me, telling me thank you, telling me they were sorry, just the most precious things. The pilot escorted us to the next stop. And I'll tell you something, one of the pilots that, I can't even remember which one it was, but one of the pilots actually gave us his family passes. Gave us 4 of his family passes so that we could fly anywhere we needed to in the upcoming. I mean, this was America. This was what America looked like to me, and it looked like that for the whole past 4 years. Just a constant reminder that we are good people, and we do love and appreciate those who sacrifice everything on our behalf. And I'm not going to tell the second story because I really have to move on. But somebody say, come on. I like it. Okay, I'm going to tell. Okay, one of the kids in our Operation 300 camp. His name is William. Now remember, he's in our Operation 300 camp because his father is dead, serving our country. He died in Iraq in 2005. And just about 2 months ago, our family learned that William's mother is now terminally ill with cancer, and she has about 60 days left to live. And so I want to tell you what happened. Captain Sean Parnell, who was up here before me, he and I and his wife and our daughter and Billy, we got together and we started a GoFundMe campaign. And right now, that GoFundMe campaign in less than 1 week is over $147,000. $100,000 in the first 24 hours. That's who America is. And you know, after Aaron's death, I'll tell you, I decided it was time for me to get off my couch and fight culturally the battle that my son fought kinetically. I know that we're at a crossroads unlike anything we've ever experienced in our lifetimes. And it's time to act. And I just want to ask you, if you're not engaged in this battle to stop those who mean to fundamentally transform America, I'm asking you to get engaged. Did you ever dream there would come a time in our lifetimes where we would have a president in office deal with Iran on nuclear arms? Did you ever dream? And to quote one of our locals who's moved to Texas now, but one of my great friends out in the West, what message are we sending? What message are we sending? When we negotiate with a country to weaponize them with nuclear arms when they're holding 4 American hostages and we don't even get our Americans home. What message are we sending? But they do get their nuclear scientists back. What message are we sending? Who have we become and what in the world has happened to the America that my son gave his life for? We cannot allow this to continue because we know in this room that weakness is provocative. And when America is weak, the world is in chaos. And so we've got to show ourselves strong again. And I'll tell you something, I have 5 grandchildren. I never want the day to come where they look at me and say, Grandma, what were you doing when it all fell apart? Grandma, what were you doing when Barack Obama gave Iran the right to build nuclear weapons? What were you doing? Did you fight? Did you try to stop it? I don't want them to look at me and say that. And I'll tell you what else I don't want. I never want Aaron to look down from heaven possibly and say to me, Mom, what are you doing? I'm going to fight. I'm going to fight on his behalf. I'm going to fight out of honor for what he and so many others have given me. And I'll tell you something else. I want him to know that his death did not make me weak. It made me strong and determined to fight for this country. Some of the most inspiring quotes I've ever heard come from Ronald Reagan. One that I love is he said, "You and I have a rendezvous with destiny. We can preserve this, the last best hope of man on earth, or we can send it to the next generation to take the first step into 1,000 years of darkness." And he said this, "If this way of ours is to be lost, if we are destined to fail, at least let it be said of me that it did not fail because I failed to try." Dietrich Bonhoeffer said the ultimate test of a moral society is the kind of world that leaves its children. I'm going to do my part. And I want to say one other thing, and then I'm going to get to closing up here and moving on to Madison Rising, who will be joining us in just a minute, who you're going to just love. But I want you to just share this thought with me for just a minute, that inaction is action. What we choose not to do could affect our future more profoundly than all the things we choose to do. It's time to act. And I want to finish by saying this. I've talked tonight about all the things Aaron Vaughn gave his life for. I've told you that he would want me to say, if he was in this very same life again, he would want me to encourage him to go do what he did, and I would. I'm proud of the path my son chose, but I'm going to finish by telling you what he did not die for. Aaron Vaughn did not die so that big government and bloated bureaucracies could cripple small businesses across this nation and destroy the very thing that made it He didn't die to watch his children become enslaved to an $18.5 trillion out of control debt. That's not what he this president hand his children over possibly the most demonic, dangerous countries, nuclear arms now, by the time they're teenagers and young adults. He didn't die for that. And once again, to quote Alan West, why has nobody else done that since the Carter administration, since that last weak-willed administration? Because, quoting Alan West, Mr. Obama, it's a damn stupid thing you just did. That's why nobody else did it. He did not after that, helplessly pitch black right, chasing after and capturing terrorists who were hell-bent to destroy everything that we love and hold dear here in America, only to watch that same commander-in-chief turn 5 of those terrorists loose in exchange for a traitor. He did not do that. That's not what America is. We are challenging you tonight to lock arms with us, to join forces with us, and fight for the restoration of this republic. Because if not now, when? And if not us, who? God bless you, and thank you so much for coming out tonight. Thank you.